Welcome back, my cuties, to another React. Now today, we're finally gonna sit down and learn about Warhammer 40K. Now some people might say, oh, Bo, we explained to you a lot about Warhammer 40K before, but are we gonna believe these people? No, we are not. Honestly, I'm super excited to learn about Warhammer 40K because you guys are always super excited to talk about it and me acting like I understand. So a great place to start for me and for the people that want to get into it is how to start watching Warhammer 40K, what shows to see first from Lore Horse. So as usual, let's grab our coffee and let's get into it.
Finally convinced you to take a closer look
Here
at the
we're going to
Space
start
Marines,
with a little
Sisters
intro.
of Battle, or the countless other factions at war in humanity's grim future. You're going to need to know where to start. And since it can
Of
take
course,
just one
that's why we're
story,
here.
one hero, or one scene to get a newcomer absolutely hooked, choosing the right entry into the 40K universe can make a massive difference. This video aims to solve that problem completely, digging through the many TV shows, movies, cinematics, and both official and unofficial animation to highlight the most important, most iconic, and most undeniably awesome
I'm here
Warhammer
for it,
content
dude,
you
honestly.
need to see first. And to make that possible, I'll also give the basic context or character backstory you'll need to know to cut through any confusion, to make sure you can sit back and enjoy the best action and lore these 40K stories have to offer. And to start things off, new fans need to remember, before the famous Space Marines can unleash their deadly skills in cinematic action, they first need to get dressed. Now, there are more than a dozen cinematic trailers and
We
opening
always dress to
cutscenes I could
impress.
point new fans to and not regret a single one of them. But with the goal of getting you up to speed and dialed into Warhammer's unique brand of future warfare, one easily stands out among
This
all
looks
the rest.
insane, though.
Not an ad for a
Wow.
40K product or even a trailer for an upcoming release, but an official Warhammer short highlighting one of the most common but most significant moments rarely seen by anyone: the armoring of a Space Marine. Where similar scenes in other franchises might emphasize the
That's Tony,
cutting-edge
right?
technology or the
I knew it.
superhuman strength of the one
I knew it immediately. I'm not a fan of Marvels or anything. No.
wearing the armor. The makers of this cinematic had a very different goal, showcasing the
Okay.
religious awe, the ceremony, and the superhuman essence surrounding every single Space Marine. When a host of the armor-clad soldiers step into battle to defend humanity, it can be easy to forget that Space Marines are technically no longer human, having been chosen,
You can
trained,
hear-
and remade
You can hear the passion in the commentary, to be honest, which is super exciting, honestly.
into something greater than nature, mingling with the genetic template of a son of the
I
Emperor.
believe we're watching a
instilled with
cinematic
his
right
own
now.
essence, no matter
Yeah.
how diminished it might be. Humanity may have cast off its gods by the
Wow,
year
the
40,000,
details.
but this scene proves the rituals of devotion haven't gone anywhere. They're simply now repurposed to witness the ascension of the Emperor's angels to their true, ultimate armored form. In
Wow.
science fiction and fantasy, there is muscle, there's metal,
Are those
there's
baby
circuitry,
angels?
and there's belief.
Well-
But in Warhammer 40K, these exist as one, melding together to create something truly unique and impossible to miss when seeing each layer added to the
Oh,
next.
wow.
The end result is the overwhelming impression that every soldier, like every weapon in their hand and every round in their clip, is
Oh
an
my
instrument
God.
of divine will. A perfect mood setter for everything else you're about to see, starting for reasons that will soon become perfectly clear with just one word: Astartes. Ask any fan of modern
Okay, so I believe now we're beginning with another part of this.
superhero, sci-fi, or
Astartes.
fantasy
These
fiction,
words are a
and they'll
little hard
admit,
for me
though,
to
no matter
pronounce
how
even.
famous the franchise, how massive the budget, or how talented the team, actually getting an adaptation right in a new medium is almost impossible. Which also means that if you
Okay.
somehow manage to pull it off, your place in history is guaranteed. Once the world witnessed Batman the Animated Series, a new standard was set. After X-Men the Animated Series brought Marvel's mutants to life, a generation of voices and personalities became canon overnight. And when
Alright.
animator Shama Peterson sat down to create Astartes, that same level of history was made for the Space Marines of 40K. Naming his fan series after the legendary soldiers more commonly known as
believe this was
Space
the older
Marines, the
part, huh?
project would achieve something that even optimistic fans struggled to imagine was possible.
Oh,
Faced
the
with the
art,
massive,
wow.
mythic, and frankly obscenely oversized armor Space Marines are famous for, Peterson actually figured out how to make these hulking soldiers believably move. And not just move, but
Yeah,
fight,
that's
stalk,
insane.
hunt, and operate with cold, machine-like precision and athletic prowess. The way fans had always imagined that they did, even if they couldn't actually make the physics of it work in their heads. And the best part, you don't need to know anything
Yeah.
about the lore of 40K to enjoy what Astartes has to offer.
I could definitely see myself getting into Warhammer 40K.
With no spoken dialogue and no existing heroes, factions, or villains pulled from the canon, the story of the series is built almost entirely on vibes, evocative imagery, and badass
We are for the
moments topped
vibes,
only by an
always.
unparalleled attention to detail. Not to mention a perfect demonstration of why regular humans view the demeanor and fearlessness of the Space
What is
Marines
that?
as something almost alien. Now, if you're
Tell me the details of everything isn't crazy. I don't know if this is another cinematic, but oh my god, the details
familiar
are
with some of the
insane.
40K universe, then you can spin your own theories about the
Wow.
gray-clad Retributor chapter of Space Marines who star in the series, and the strange warp entities sending psychic servants against them. But if you're not, then Astartes simply gives everyday humans a chance to follow a squad of Space
Okay.
Marines as they strike an enemy vessel, overwhelm all resistance, and investigate the strange relics threatening to undermine the Imperium. Just a random squad from a random chapter running an everyday mission to prevent catastrophe, like countless others across a million worlds of the Empire. And if that doesn't capture the grim reality of 40K, then nothing does. Astartes was the greatest depiction of modern Warhammer 40K ever created when it first debuted in 2018, and remains the one video to show someone to convince them to check out more. But it's
Okay.
also hard to dispute it's the most important cinematic adaptation of the property, considering what it led to next. While the world hailed Astartes as the greatest representation of Warhammer 40K ever, the minds at Games Workshop
I don't know, but
soon
this
came
is-
calling,
this looks
announcing
so
a sequel
good.
series dubbed Astartes 2 was on the way from Peterson. This time with the official blessing and support of the company to be released on their streaming service Warhammer Plus. And if the first
Okay.
Astartes was proof of what a fan project could achieve, the teaser trailer for Astartes 2 raises the stakes in almost
we're
every
watching it now.
conceivable way. And even if the community has been left waiting longer than expected for
Same
the full
guy
series to
before.
arrive, the teaser is just as awesome in its current form, with editing
Wow.
and sound design that make it a brilliant short film on its own. Thankfully, Games Workshop isn't the only company who've put Peterson's trademark style to work in the grim darkness of the far future.
Okay.
For an animation team as legendary as Blur Studio, the artist behind some of the
Okay, I think we're watching now an episode from the series. I do know that getting into the lore is quite a lot because it's a very deep lore. But I'm
most
genuinely here
acclaimed
for
video
it.
game cinematics of all time,
Wow.
not to mention the genre-leading animation of
Batman,
Netflix's
huh?
Love, Death, and Robots. A project like Astartes was impossible to overlook. And while studio head Tim Miller's first attempt to greenlight an hour-long version for Amazon failed, their own anthology series of game adaptations, Secret Level, was a no-brainer alternative. Director
Okay,
and lifelong
yeah,
Warhammer
yeah.
fan
I've
Dave
heard
Wilson
about this,
wasted
so-
no time in recruiting Shama Peterson for the series' 5th episode,
Batman
adapting the
mask.
setting and characters of Space Marine 2, starting with its hero, Dimitri and Titus. And unlike the previous entries on this list, the episode titled Warhammer 40,000 and They Shall Know No Fear functions as both a direct sequel
And they shall know no fear.
to the game's story, as well as a prequel to a major new
Are those
chapter in the
bullets in his
40K
head?
timeline, which means I do need to offer some context and lore for this one before you watch, to both
Wow.
ensure that
Bro,
you're
this
not going in
looks so,
blind,
so
but also make
good.
sure
Yeah.
you get the most of the story being told on screen. If you never played the Space Marine video games, then you've probably still gotten a glimpse of Titus as one of a handful of the
I've watched
blue-clad
people play
Ultramarines who
Warhammer
become
40K
poster boys for
before.
the franchise
I
in
know
recent
there's
years.
quite a
But
lot of
whatever
them, too.
origins he may come from and however gifted a hero and commander he might be, it's his unique resistance to the force of
Again,
chaos
the
that made him a
details is
character of
insane.
great interest.
Insane,
Not only
yeah.
to players of the first game, but to the ever-suspicious Inquisitors who arrived in his final scene, believing that warp shenanigans and chaos resistance are grounds for interrogation, which for the Inquisitors means torture. Sadly, Titus would spend the next century in suspension as a prisoner of the Inquisition, being routinely thawed for questioning, failing to explain his unique abilities, then being refrozen for years at a time. Disgraced despite his innocence and having no better explanation for his resistance to warp sorcery, Titus would eventually be released to serve anonymously with the alien-hunting Death
Okay.
Watch for another century. At which point, the events of Space Marine 2 would unfold, reinstating Titus to the Ultramarines, facing down uncertain chapter brothers, and beginning his climb back to the leadership that he was robbed of.
The baby
and
angels
it's
are
here
back,
where the
huh?
events of the Secret Level episode take place. Titus can be easily identified by the laurels of victory on his helmet, earned in the Space
Okay.
Marine 2 campaign, but the star of this story is truly Mataris, the veteran soldier who, as we learn in the opening scene of the episode, actually found Titus as a
Oh
boy,
my God.
selecting him for recruitment to become a superhuman Astartes. And for any of this episode to really make sense, Mataris is the perspective through which the
Wow.
episode must be viewed. Having played the Space Marine game or watched their cinematics as a movie on YouTube, we know that Titus isn't corrupted or tainted by chaos, owing his resistance to the lack of fear and his nature as a video game protagonist. But remember, Mataris doesn't know that at all. To him, Titus was a boy he found with a blade in hand, awash in a storm of hatred, anger, and blood. He made the decision to elevate that boy to greatness and leadership, only to see him charged as a possible heretic and a victim or servant of chaos. And after 200 years without any updates, the conclusion would be obvious and brutally shameful. So when Mataris now hears of Titus's return and sees him assigned to fight at his side in a mission expected to be fatal, we can only imagine the fear, shame, guilt, and doubt which would weigh on his mind. The creators of the episode let the action do the talking from there, sending the squad in search of a chaos relic and facing waves of mutated servants of the bird-like chaos god Tzeentch. Considering Wilson's success in leading the iconic Dawn of War opening cinematic 20 years earlier, and Shama Peterson laying out the new sequences, Secret Level is the first true rival to Astartes' peak 40K, and an experience that Tim Miller calls the best thing Blur has likely ever made. And he would know, I mean, this is the guy who animated Clippy. Now, I mentioned before that the episode is also a prequel for the future of 40K's brand synergy.
Now
Without
I know
any
where
major
Clippy came from
spoilers,
too.
the Secret Level episode demonstrates
today,
what incredible things Titus is capable of achieving. Not only for himself, but for the Ultramarines' home system of Ultramar and the Empire's endless war against chaos. That acts as a perfect setup for the next major lore expansion coming to the 40K timeline, given its own cinematic trailer as well. Jumping from video games to television and now back to the tabletop, the new 500 Worlds narrative campaign expansion sees Titus promoted to his greatest role yet, personally charged by his Primarch Rebute Gilliman to lead the entire Second Company in restoring the fallen empire of Ultramar to its former glory. It's an impossible task, but one Titus is forced to accept as a major new figure in the current Warhammer universe, with Mataris faithfully serving at his side as the leader of his new hand-picked Wardens of Ultramar. What comes next, we'll have to wait and see. Now, if the prospect of watching the entire Space Marine game and cinematics actually does seem up your alley, then Helsreach must be next on your list. Clocking in well over feature length at 2 hours and 30 minutes, the fan project by filmmaker Richard Boylan adapts the novel of the same name by Aaron Dembski Bowden, narrated in audiobook format by Jonathan Keeble. The stylized animation accompanying the narrated text is a somewhat unconventional format, but with ADB and Keeble both fan favorites in their respective roles, the result is one that every fan should experience, especially considering the novel itself is on many shortlists as the most approachable novels for Warhammer newcomers as well. Boylan's use of the book's vocal performance, sound design, and 3D animation are all equally inspired, rotoscoped into high-contrast monochrome to translate the harsh desert heat of Armageddon into a visual form, years before Dune Part 2 would do the same. And since the story follows the forces of the Black Templar chapter of Space Marines, the black and white color scheme is a match made in heaven. Or in this case, hell. Now, if you've seen my video explaining the orcs, you'll have all the history you need for this story. Taking place within the Third War for Armageddon, and following Merritt Grimaldus as he leads the defense of the Hive City Helsreach, facing down the greatest orc fleet and army ever to assault the planet. But as the animation proves, there's a big difference between reading about the Imperial Guards, Space Marines, and Titans withstanding an orc planetary assault and getting to see it in all its brutal detail. Plus, with more battle speeches than you can shake a bolter at, Helsreach remains something truly special in the realm of 40K fan, and one that simply can't be missed. As we shift now to the official animation created internally by Games Workshop, there are multiple series, shorts, and anthologies worth checking out via subscription to Warhammer Plus. Every fan is likely to have their favorites, but
I think I've seen this style of art recreated for some of the characters of Marvels by some fans.
Personally, Pariah Nexus remains the best entry point to the streaming services library. The three-part series takes a focused look at one of the desolate, hopeless battlefields scattered across the Imperium, following one Sister of Battle and one Space Marine of the Salamanders chapter, as they struggle.
I genuinely am just like super fascinated by the art and everything behind this. I am super excited to learn more about it as well, because I really want to know what happened after that first episode.
Brutal Necron invasion. Most impressively, the series gives equal time to the three major factions involved. The ruthless games of death played by the robotic Necron, far more human in their impulses than their appearance would suggest. The harsh religious devotion of the Sisters of Battle and how their belief can often conflict with morality or compassion towards anyone who isn't the Emperor of mankind. And the noble salamanders, who value regular human lives above even their own and pay a price for it. Throw in some unforgettable battle scenes and 40K's version of a zombie outbreak, and Pariah Nexus gives a perfect illustration of why fans can fall in love with such a bleak future. As the ideal follow-up or answer to Pariah Nexus, the Tithes takes the same style and production of Warhammer Plus's best animation, and as the name implies, reveals just how much is sacrificed
the thighs
in three entirely separate corners of the 40K universe, reminding everybody watching exactly why you shouldn't ever want to live in it. First, a two-man fire team runs a death-defying strike into enemy Necron territory to recover the ultra-valuable gene seed from a few dead Ultramarines. Second, get a rare glimpse into how the Emperor's custodians and the Sisters of Silence who accompany them go about enforcing the most brutal decisions made to protect Terra at all costs, while also collecting psychic souls to be sacrificed as fuel for the Golden Throne. And finally, a tragic look at the human lives spent and wasted with each stroke of the Administratum's pen, and how soldiers seek honor despite the bleak and meaningless deaths occurring across the Empire every day. It isn't called Grimdark by accident. Pariah Nexus offers an introduction to the women of Warhammer's battle factions, but you can use your Warhammer Plus subscription to dive even deeper into the faith and fireworks of the Sisters of Battle. The three-part series, Adepta Sororitas Penitents, puts the spotlight on...
these words are so hard to say. What? Adepta Sororitas Penitents. I don't even understand what are those.
Launching a dangerous mission to bring a holy relic where it's needed most, while also following the local orcs, who make sure not to pass up such a promising hunt. While the religious overtones and saintly interventions surrounding the ecclesiarchy of the 40K universe aren't for everyone, there's no denying that it offers something rarely found alongside orc slaughter. But even putting the religion aside, the badass fight choreography showcases the sisters as tide-turning warriors. And the cinematography and editing make Penitents another step forward for GW's in-house storytelling. Not to mention highlighting that the Sisters of Battle might be the most extreme of all Warhammer factions. And there you have it. This watch list guarantees you'll start your journey into Warhammer 40K with the best of the best. But there is much more to choose from once these foundations are in place. From the villainous Drukhari of Iron Within, the Angels of Death, and over a dozen episodes of the Hammer and Bolter animated series, there's always more on the way. All of these will be covered in future videos, so make sure to like, subscribe, and call out any other official or unofficial videos new fans should watch in the comments below. And through it all, remember Warhammer's first rule of unarmed combat: don't be unarmed. And the second rule? Find someone who is.
Damn, don't be unarmed and find someone who is. Okay, and I believe we reached the end of this video. Now, I really hope you guys enjoyed this topic, you enjoyed this video with me, because I am super excited to continue learning about Warhammer 40K. Same with all the new people over here learning or wanting to learn about Warhammer 40K. If you'd like me to continue reacting to more content about this topic specifically, then leave it in the comment section below, and don't forget to drop a subscribe, a like, and if you would like to keep up with me on different types of content and on games, look me up on Twitch and you'll find the link in the description below. And for now, I'll see you guys on another one, and bye bye.